The mysterious arrival. Nathan Carter never considered himself easily startled. Life on a remote space outpost meant living among the unexpected. With the nearest colony light-years away and constant exposure to alien species, bizarre occurrences had become routine. Still, this night would etch itself into his memory like no other. The faint signal was barely perceptible against the ambient cosmic noise, a blip on his scanner he might have dismissed if not for his instinct. It flickered persistently. Unlike the random interference common in deep space, Nathan furrowed his brow, adjusting the scanner's sensitivity to hone in on the source. The signal resolved into something undeniable. A distress beacon. A ship was adrift, damaged and lifeless, just beyond the outpost's safe zone. Nathan's pulse quickened. Rescue missions were standard protocol, but they always carried an edge of danger. As he suited up, his mind raced with possibilities. Pirates, a smuggler evading capture, perhaps a traveler caught in a meteor storm. None of those guesses prepared him for the sight awaiting him. Docking with the crippled vessel, Nathan cycled through the airlock and stepped inside. His helmet lights pierced the dim interior, illuminating scorched walls and panels torn asunder by what appeared to be weapons fire. Yet the true shock came when he found her. She was unlike anything he'd seen, and he had seen plenty. Her skin shimmered, a living tapestry of iridescent hues that shifted subtly as she moved. Her features were almost human, sharp cheekbones, a lithe figure. But there was an elegance to her presence that transcended humanity. Her eyes, large and luminous, seemed to glow faintly as they fixed on him. They weren't just watching. They were analyzing, probing, and Nathan felt a chill run down his spine under her intense gaze. "Are you injured?" he managed, his voice betraying a crack of nervousness. He took a cautious step forward, his hand instinctively hovering near his sidearm. Protocol dictated caution, and while she didn't appear hostile, there was something undeniably otherworldly about her. The alien woman tilted her head slightly, as if considering his question. "I require assistance," she said finally, her voice smooth but tinged with an unfamiliar accent. "My ship was attacked." Her statement was simple, but the weight behind it was palpable. Nathan nodded, gesturing for her to follow him to the station. As they made their way through the narrow, sterile corridors, he couldn't help but steal glances at her. She moved with a grace that bordered on surreal, her feet seeming to glide over the floor rather than stepping. And her eyes, those penetrating eyes, darted around, taking in every detail of the station. Nathan's unease grew. Something about her felt off. Not in the sense of immediate danger, but rather a gnawing sense of being in the presence of something vastly beyond his comprehension. She radiated a quiet power, a magnetic force that seemed to pull at him, both fascinating and unsettling him in equal measure. "What's your name?" he asked, breaking the silence as they entered the repair bay. His voice sounded hollow in the cavernous space. For a moment, she hesitated. Then, as if deciding it was safe to answer, she said, "You may call me Alicia." Nathan nodded slowly. "Alicia, I'm Nathan. So, what happened out there? Who attacked you?" Alicia's gaze flickered, and for the first time, a hint of emotion crossed her otherwise serene face. Was it fear? No, Nathan thought. It was something deeper, more complex, a guarded mix of calculation and unease. "That," she said cryptically, "is complicated." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Complicated? That's not exactly reassuring." Instead of answering, Alicia turned her attention to the ship's repair console. Her fingers moved over the controls with an almost reverent precision. Nathan noted how her touch seemed to awaken the dormant systems, sparking them to life in ways he'd never seen before. "What aren't you telling me?" Nathan pressed, stepping closer. His tone was firm, but not aggressive. He had dealt with countless species passing through the station, each with their own secrets and eccentricities. But Alicia was different. There was a weight to her silence that felt almost suffocating. Alicia finally met his gaze, her luminous eyes locking onto his. For a moment, the air between them seemed to thicken, charged with an invisible energy. "You are bold," she said softly, almost amused. "But some truths are better left unspoken." Nathan's heart raced, and he swallowed hard. He should have left it there, respected her boundaries, but his curiosity burned hotter than his caution. There was something magnetic about Alicia, something that begged to be understood, no matter the cost. "What are you hiding?" he asked, his voice dropping to a low, insistent tone. "If I'm going to help you, I need to know what I'm dealing with." Alicia tilted her head again, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, her lips curved into a faint smile, a smile that sent a shiver down Nathan's spine. "You truly wish to know?" she asked, her voice carrying a quiet challenge. Nathan nodded, his determination outweighing his apprehension. Whatever she was hiding, it was clear it wasn't just about her ship or the attackers who had pursued her. There was something much bigger at play, and Nathan Carter was about to dive headfirst into the unknown. Unveiling secrets. Nathan Carter couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the edge of something monumental. Alicia's cryptic responses and magnetic presence left him simultaneously intrigued and unnerved. He had faced the unknown many times during his years on the outpost, but this felt different. This wasn't just a rescue, it was the start of something far greater. As Alicia worked on the control panel of her damaged ship, Nathan paced behind her, his mind racing with unanswered questions. She moved with a precision that bordered on the mechanical, her hands gliding over the controls with an expertise that suggested she was more than just a skilled pilot. The hum of the ship's systems slowly returning to life filled the bay, but Nathan's focus remained fixed on Alicia. "You said it's complicated," he began, breaking the silence. "That doesn't exactly inspire confidence. Who attacked you? Pirates? Mercenaries? Or something worse?" Alicia didn't look up. "If I tell you, will it change anything?" she asked, her tone calm, but laced with a subtle challenge. Nathan frowned. "It might. If there's a threat to the station, I need to know. And if you're in danger, you need help." Alicia finally turned to face him, her luminous eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his breath catch. "The danger I face," she said slowly, "is not one you can understand. And the help I need is not so simple." Her words were vague, but her expression carried a weight that left Nathan unsettled. He had seen fear before, raw, desperate fear from refugees fleeing interstellar conflicts. But Alicia wasn't afraid. If anything, she seemed burdened, as if she were carrying the weight of a galaxy on her shoulders. "You're not telling me everything," Nathan said, stepping closer. "I've dealt with all kinds of species, all kinds of situations. Whatever this is, I can handle it." Alicia's lips curved into a faint, enigmatic smile. "You are bold, human," she murmured. "But boldness is not always enough." Nathan crossed his arms, his patience thinning. "You're hiding something," he pressed. "And if I'm going to help you, I need to know what it is. What's really going on here?" For a long moment, Alicia said nothing. Then, with a soft sigh, she turned back to the control panel. Her fingers brushed across its surface, activating a holographic display. The projection showed a vast expanse of space, dotted with glowing markers, star systems, stations, and ships. But one marker pulsed with a menacing red light, its presence dominating the display. "That," she said, gesturing to the red marker. "That is what hunts me." Nathan leaned in, studying the display. The red marker represented a massive vessel, its design unfamiliar and ominous. "Who are they?" he asked, his voice low. "They are not pirates or mercenaries," Alicia replied. "They are something far worse. A coalition of factions, united by greed and ambition. They seek to harness power beyond their comprehension." Nathan's brow furrowed. "Power? What kind of power?" Alicia hesitated, her gaze fixed on the display. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. "The kind of power that can shape worlds or destroy them." Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. And you're saying they think you have this power? Alicia turned to him, her luminous eyes gleaming with an intensity that made his heart race. I do not merely have it, she said. I am it. Her words hit Nathan like a physical blow. He stared at her, his mind struggling to process the implications. What? What do you mean? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Alicia stepped closer, her presence both mesmerizing and overwhelming. My kind are connected to the fabric of the universe itself, she explained. We are conduits of energy, capable of creation and destruction. The power you felt when you entered my ship, that was only a fraction of what I am. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. He had felt it, the strange, electric hum in the air when he had first stepped aboard her vessel. At the time, he had dismissed it as a malfunction in his equipment. Now, he realized it was something far greater. They want to use you, he said, the gravity of the situation sinking in. To turn you into a weapon. Alicia nodded. And they will stop at nothing to achieve their goal. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. He had stumbled into something far bigger than he had imagined. This wasn't just a stranded traveler or a damaged ship. This was a galactic-scale conflict with Alicia at its center. So what do we do? He asked, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his insides. How do we stop them? Alicia studied him for a moment, her gaze piercing. You are brave, human, she said softly. But this is not your fight. Nathan shook his head. You came to my station, he said firmly. You asked for my help. That makes it my fight too. For the first time, Alicia's expression softened. A flicker of something, gratitude, perhaps, crossed her face. Very well, she said. But know this. If you stand with me, you will be hunted as I am. There will be no turning back. Nathan swallowed hard, the weight of her words settling over him. He knew the logical thing would be to walk away, to leave Alicia to her fate, and return to the relative safety of his life on the station. But something about her, about the way she spoke, made it impossible to abandon her. I'm in, he said, his voice firm. Whatever it takes, I'll help you. Alicia's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. Then you have my gratitude, Nathan Carter, she said, and my trust. As the holographic display flickered and dimmed, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just changed forever. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about something far greater, a battle for the very future of the galaxy. And for better or worse, he was now part of it. A risky revelation. Nathan's words hung in the air, resolute and unwavering. Whatever it takes, I'll help you. The weight of his commitment pressed down on him, but he couldn't turn away now. Alicia had drawn him into a world of secrets and unimaginable power, and walking away wasn't an option, not when she carried the potential to change everything. Alicia's expression softened slightly, her sharp, almost guarded demeanor giving way to something more contemplative. You are bold, she said softly. And boldness can be a strength, but it can also lead to your undoing. Nathan crossed his arms, his gaze steady. I faced danger before. I'll face it again. Alicia tilted her head, studying him as though trying to determine if he truly understood what he was saying. Then, she stepped closer, her luminous eyes locking onto his. You think this is a fight of courage and willpower, she said, her voice calm but laced with a quiet intensity. It is not. The power I hold is not something you can comprehend, not yet. Nathan's breath caught as she moved even closer. He could feel the faint hum of energy radiating from her, a pulsing force that seemed to resonate in the air around them. Her presence was magnetic, overwhelming, and for a moment, he felt as though he were standing on the edge of an abyss, staring into something vast and unknowable. I need you to understand, Alicia continued. This is not about strength or bravery. It is about knowledge, about choices, and about consequences. Nathan frowned, his curiosity flaring. Then show me, he said, his voice firm. Show me what you're hiding. Alicia's lips curved into a faint smile, a smile that was equal parts amused and somber. "You truly wish to see?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan nodded, his pulse quickening. He had come too far to turn back now. Whatever secrets Alicia carried, whatever power she possessed, he needed to know. Not just to help her, but to understand the gravity of what they were up against. "Very well," Alicia said. "But once I show you, there is no turning back. What you see cannot be unseen." The room seemed to grow colder as her words settled over him. Nathan's heart raced, his mind torn between anticipation and apprehension. He nodded again, his resolve unwavering. "I'm ready." Alicia took a step back, her gaze never leaving his. The air around her seemed to shimmer, the faint glow of her iridescent skin intensifying. She raised her hands, her fingers moving with a deliberate grace, as though she were weaving invisible threads. The hum of energy grew louder, resonating in Nathan's chest like the distant roar of a storm. Then, in an instant, the room was flooded with light, brilliant and blinding. It radiated from Alicia's form, illuminating every corner of the repair bay. Nathan staggered back, shielding his eyes as the force of it washed over him. It wasn't just light. It was energy, raw and uncontained, crackling in the air like a living thing. When the light began to fade, Nathan lowered his hands, his breath hitching in his throat. Alicia stood before him, transformed. Her entire body glowed with an ethereal brilliance, her skin shimmering like liquid starlight. Her eyes burned with a radiant intensity, their luminous depths seeming to hold the secrets of the universe. Nathan could feel the power radiating from her, a force so immense it was almost unbearable. It wasn't just physical, it was something deeper, something that resonated with the very fabric of existence. He could feel it in his bones, in his mind, in his soul. What is this?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. Alicia's voice echoed in his mind, smooth and resonant. "This is what they seek, the power to create and to destroy." Nathan's mind raced as he tried to comprehend what he was seeing. This wasn't just a demonstration of strength or ability. It was a glimpse into something far greater. Alicia wasn't just an alien with extraordinary powers. She was something else entirely, something elemental. "You're connected to the universe," he said, his voice trembling. "This isn't just energy. It's life itself." Alicia nodded, her expression unreadable. "My kind are conduits," she said. "We draw from the threads that bind existence together. The energy you feel is not mine. It is the universe's. I am merely its vessel." Nathan swallowed hard, his mind reeling. "And they want to use this, to turn you into a weapon." "Yes," Alicia said simply, "to bend worlds to their will, to destroy those who oppose them." Nathan felt a surge of anger rise in his chest. The thought of such power being twisted for destruction was unbearable. But as he looked at Alicia, he realized there was something else she wasn't telling him. "You said this power isn't just for destruction," he said carefully. "What else can it do?" Alicia hesitated, her gaze flickering. For the first time, she seemed uncertain. "It can create," she said finally. "It can heal. It can connect. But such things come at a cost." Nathan frowned. What kind of cost? Alicia didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped closer, her luminous eyes meeting his. "The bond it creates is unbreakable," she said softly. "It is not something you can choose lightly." Nathan's pulse quickened as her words sank in. He didn't fully understand what she meant, but he could feel the gravity of her warning. Whatever this bond was, it was far more than a simple connection. It was something permanent, something life-altering. "And you think I'm ready for this?" he asked, his voice steady despite the uncertainty gnawing at him. Alicia's lips curved into a faint smile. "That is not for me to decide," she said. "It is for you to choose. But know this, once the bond is formed, there is no going back." Nathan took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He had come this far, And he wasn't about to back down now. Whatever Alicia was offering, whatever this bond entailed, he was ready to face it. "Show me," he said, his voice firm. "I want to see." Alicia studied him for a long moment, her luminous eyes searching his face. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Very well," she said. "But be warned, Nathan Carter. What comes next will change everything." As she raised her hands again, the air around them seemed to thrum with renewed energy. Nathan's heart raced as he prepared to take the next step into the unknown, knowing that whatever lay ahead, it would forever alter the course of his life. The power within. The hum of energy intensified, vibrating through the air and resonating deep within Nathan's chest. He stood motionless, every nerve alive with anticipation as Alicia's glowing form began to shift and shimmer. Her eyes, radiant and otherworldly, never left his, and Nathan felt as though they were piercing straight into his soul. "This is your last chance to step back," Alicia said, her voice smooth but layered with an almost hypnotic quality. "Once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you feel, you cannot forget." Nathan's pulse quickened, but his resolve was firm. "I'm not going anywhere," he replied, his voice steady despite the tension building in the room. Alicia tilted her head slightly, a faint smile playing on her lips. "So be it." With a deliberate motion, she raised her hand, her palm hovering inches from Nathan's chest. The air between them grew heavier, charged with a crackling energy that seemed to ripple outward in invisible waves. The faint hum transformed into a deep, resonant thrum that reverberated through the walls of the station. Then, without warning, a surge of light erupted from Alicia's hand. It wasn't blinding like before, but softer, pulsing like the heartbeat of a star. Nathan gasped as the light enveloped him, its warmth penetrating his skin and coursing through his veins. It wasn't painful, far from it. The sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced, a blend of euphoria and awe that left him breathless. The world around him began to fade, replaced by a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes that seemed to stretch into infinity. He was no longer in the station, no longer bound by the physical constraints of reality. Instead, he found himself immersed in a vast, interconnected web of light and energy, each thread pulsing with life. "This," Alicia's voice echoed in his mind, "is the fabric of the universe." Nathan turned, his movements fluid and effortless in this strange, weightless space. He saw Alicia standing beside him, her form glowing brighter than ever. She extended her hand, and as he took it, he felt a surge of connection, so profound it left him reeling. "You are experiencing the source," Alicia continued, her voice calm but resonant. "The energy that binds all things together. It is creation. It is destruction. It is life itself." Nathan stared in awe at the threads of light stretching endlessly in every direction. Each one seemed to vibrate with its own unique frequency, yet they all moved in harmony, forming a symphony of existence. He reached out, his fingers brushing against one of the threads, and instantly, a flood of images and sensations filled his mind. He saw stars being born, galaxies colliding, and planets teeming with life. He felt the joy of creation and the sorrow of destruction, all intertwined in an endless cycle. "This is what they seek to control," Alicia said, her voice tinged with sadness. "They wish to twist this energy, to weaponize it for their own ends. But such power was never meant to be contained. It is a force of balance, not domination." Nathan turned to face her, his mind racing. "And you're connected to this." "I am a conduit," Alicia replied. "My kind are born with the ability to access this energy, to guide it. But that connection is not without its cost." Nathan frowned, his curiosity flaring. "What kind of cost?" Alicia hesitated, her gaze flickering with a hint of vulnerability. "To wield this power is to be bound to it," she said softly. "It is not merely a tool. It is a bond, one that shapes and defines who we are. And for those like me, that bond is both a gift and a burden." Nathan nodded slowly, his mind still struggling to grasp the enormity of what he was experiencing. And these people hunting you, they want to use you to control this energy. Yes, Alicia said, her expression darkening. They seek to extract the energy from me, to harness it for their machines. They do not understand that such an act would destroy not just me, but everything connected to me. Nathan's jaw tightened. The thought of Alicia being reduced to a mere resource for their weapons filled him with anger. We can't let that happen, he said firmly. There has to be a way to stop them. Alicia studied him for a moment, her gaze searching his face. You are brave, Nathan Carter, she said softly. But bravery alone will not be enough. To protect this power, you must understand it. And to understand it, you must accept the bond. Nathan's breath caught as her words sank in. The bond. It is a connection, Alicia explained. A merging of minds and souls. Through it, you will see as I see, feel as I feel. It will change you, Nathan. It will make you a part of this web, just as I am. Nathan hesitated, the weight of her words pressing down on him. He had always been drawn to the unknown, but this was unlike anything he had ever encountered. The idea of forging such a connection was both thrilling and terrifying. What happens if I accept? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You will gain insight and strength, Alicia said, but you will also inherit the dangers that come with it. Those who hunt me will hunt you as well. And the bond, it cannot be undone. Nathan swallowed hard, his mind racing. He knew the risks, but he also knew that turning back wasn't an option. Alicia needed him, and the galaxy needed her. I'm ready, he said finally, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his insides. Alicia's luminous eyes softened, and a faint smile curved her lips. Then hold on tight, Nathan Carter, she said. For what comes next will change everything. As she raised her hand once more, the web of light around them pulsed, its threads vibrating with an almost musical resonance. Nathan braced himself, knowing that whatever lay ahead, it would forever alter the course of his life. An unlikely ally. The world of shimmering light began to fade, and Nathan Carter found himself back in the repair bay of the station. His legs felt weak, his mind reeling from what he had just experienced. He braced himself against a nearby console, his chest heaving as he tried to steady his breath. The memories of the interconnected web, the threads of life and energy, lingered in his mind like a vivid dream. Across from him, Alicia stood as calm and composed as ever, though her iridescent skin still faintly glowed, a reminder of the immense power she carried within her. You have seen it now, she said softly. You understand what is at stake. Nathan nodded, his voice hoarse. I've never felt anything like that. It was overwhelming, but incredible. Alicia's gaze softened. The universe is vast and complex, she said. Most beings live their lives unaware of the threads that bind them to one another. But you have touched it. You have seen the balance we strive to protect. Nathan pushed himself upright, his determination solidifying. Then we can't let them take you, he said firmly. They'll twist it, corrupt it. We have to fight back. Alicia tilted her head, her expression unreadable. You are quick to commit, Nathan Carter, she said. But this is not a simple battle. The ones who hunt me are relentless, resourceful, and far-reaching. They will not stop until they have what they seek. Nathan squared his shoulders, his resolve unwavering. Then we give them a fight they'll never forget. Alicia's lips curved into a faint smile. Your bravery is admirable, she said, but bravery alone will not be enough. If we are to succeed, you must understand the full scope of the challenge before us. Nathan leaned against the console, crossing his arms. Start with who they are, he said. You called them a coalition. What does that mean? Alicia gestured toward the holographic display, which flickered to life once more. The red marker, representing the massive ship, pulsed ominously in the center of the map. Around it, smaller markers formed a tight formation. Escorts, perhaps, or scout ships. They are a collective of factions, Alicia explained, her voice calm but grave. Their leaders are powerful individuals driven by greed and ambition. They see the universe as something to conquer, to exploit for their own gain. And they believe my power is the key to achieving their goals. Nathan studied the display, his jaw tightening. And you're sure they'll come here? To this station. They are already on their way, Alicia said. The signal from my ship's distress beacon would have alerted them to my location. It is only a matter of time before they arrive. Nathan's mind raced. He had dealt with hostile forces before, pirates, smugglers, even rogue mercenaries. But this was something entirely different. These weren't opportunists or criminals. These were organized, methodical hunters with the resources to track and capture a being as powerful as Alicia. What kind of defenses do we have? He asked, glancing at the repair bay's control panel. Alicia shook her head. This station's weapons are designed for minor skirmishes, not for withstanding a fleet of this magnitude. Even with its full complement of security personnel, the station would fall within minutes. Nathan frowned. So what's the plan? Running isn't an option. They'll just keep coming after you. Alicia hesitated, her luminous eyes flickering with uncertainty. The only way to stop them, she said slowly, is to confront them head-on. But to do so, I will need your help. Nathan arched an eyebrow. What kind of help? Alicia stepped closer, her gaze steady. My power is immense, but it is not limitless, she explained. I require a conduit, a partner to help channel and amplify my abilities. Alone, I can hold them off for a time. But with you, I can do much more. Nathan's breath caught as her words sank in. You mean the bond? He said, his voice low. Yes, Alicia said. The bond will allow us to synchronize our energies, to act as one. Together, we can turn the very forces they seek against them. But the bond is not without risks. Nathan swallowed hard, his mind racing. He had already experienced a glimpse of Alicia's power, and it had been both awe-inspiring and overwhelming. The thought of sharing that power, of becoming a part of it, was daunting. But he also knew they had no other choice. What kind of risks are we talking about? He asked. The bond will link us on a fundamental level, Alicia said. Our thoughts, our emotions, our very beings will become intertwined. It is an unbreakable connection, and it will change you in ways you cannot yet understand. Nathan's pulse quickened. He was no stranger to danger, but this was something entirely different. Still, as he looked at Alicia, at the determination in her eyes, at the weight she carried, he knew he couldn't abandon her. I'm in, he said firmly. If it means stopping them, I'll do whatever it takes. Alicia's expression softened, and for the first time, Nathan saw a flicker of relief in her luminous eyes. Thank you, Nathan Carter, she said. Your courage is rare, and it may be the key to turning the tide. The room seemed to hum with renewed energy as Alicia raised her hand, her fingers brushing against Nathan's. The connection was immediate, a surge of warmth and light that spread through him like a tidal wave. He gasped as their bond began to form, the threads of their beings intertwining in a way that felt both intimate and profound. This is only the beginning, Alicia said softly, her voice resonating in his mind, as well as his ears. What comes next will test us both, but together, we can face it. Nathan nodded, his resolve solidifying. He didn't know what the future held, but he was ready to face it head-on, with Alicia by his side. For the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about fighting for something greater, something worth risking everything for. A bond forged in danger. The moment Alicia's hand brushed Nathan's, the connection surged through him like a tidal wave of light and energy. It wasn't just a physical sensation. It was something deeper, something that resonated within the very core of his being. He gasped, his breath catching as the threads of their bond began to weave together, intertwining in a way that felt both foreign and strangely natural. The repair bay around them seemed to fade into the background, replaced by a glowing expanse of interwoven light. Nathan felt as though he were floating, his consciousness merging with Alicia's in a way that defied explanation. Memories, emotions, and thoughts passed between them in an unspoken dialogue, creating an intimacy that left him breathless. "Do not resist," Alicia's voice echoed in his mind, smooth and calming. "Let the bond form naturally. It will guide us." Nathan closed his eyes, surrendering to the sensation. He could feel Alicia's presence enveloping him, her thoughts brushing against his like a warm current. Her emotions were a complex tapestry, strength tempered by vulnerability, determination underscored by a quiet sadness, and beneath it all, an unwavering resolve to protect the universe from the forces that sought to exploit her power. As their bond solidified, Nathan felt something shift within himself. It was as though a door had opened, revealing a part of him he hadn't known existed. The connection to Alicia's energy wasn't just a link, it was an awakening. He could feel the faint hum of the universe's threads vibrating around him, their rhythms aligning with his own heartbeat. When Nathan opened his eyes, the repair bay came back into focus, but everything felt sharper, more vivid. Colors seemed brighter, sounds clearer, and the air itself seemed to hum with life. He turned to Alicia, whose luminous eyes now glowed with a deeper intensity. "You feel it, don't you?" she said softly, her voice carrying a note of quiet wonder. Nathan nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "It's overwhelming," he admitted, "but incredible." Alicia's lips curved into a faint smile. "You are adapting quickly," she said. "That is a good sign. The bond amplifies our connection to the universe, allowing us to channel its energy more effectively. But it is also a responsibility." Nathan frowned, the weight of her words settling over him. "What kind of responsibility?" Alicia stepped closer, her gaze steady. "The energy we wield is not ours to command. It is a force of balance, meant to sustain and nurture. If we misuse it, even unintentionally, the consequences could be catastrophic." Nathan swallowed hard, the gravity of her warning sinking in. "So we have to be careful." "Yes," Alicia said, "but we must also act decisively. The ones who hunt us will not wait. They are relentless, and they will stop at nothing to capture me. And now you." Nathan's jaw tightened. The thought of being hunted didn't scare him, as much as the thought of Alicia falling into their hands. He had seen enough destruction during his time on the outpost to know what unchecked power could do. If these hunters succeeded in weaponizing Alicia's energy, the galaxy itself would be at risk. "Then we need a plan," he said firmly. "Something to give us the upper hand." Alicia nodded, her luminous eyes narrowing with determination. "There is a way," she said, "but it will not be easy." She gestured to the holographic display, which flickered to life once more. The red marker representing the enemy fleet loomed ominously in the center, surrounded by smaller, more agile ships. Alicia reached out, her fingers brushing the projection, and the image shifted to reveal a detailed schematic of the lead vessel. "This is their flagship," she explained. "It serves as their command center and their primary source of firepower. If we can disable it, we can disrupt their coordination and force them to retreat." Nathan studied the schematic, his mind racing. The ship was massive, bristling with weaponry and defenses. Taking it down wouldn't just be difficult, it would be suicidal. "How do we even get close to something like that?" he asked. Alicia's gaze flickered, a hint of uncertainty crossing her face. "The bond gives us an advantage," she said. "By combining our energies, we can create a disruption field strong enough to penetrate their defenses. But the field will only last for a short time, and it will leave us vulnerable." Nathan's stomach churned at the thought, but he forced himself to focus. "What happens after we get inside?" Alicia hesitated, her luminous eyes locking onto his. "We overload their core," she said finally. "It will destroy the ship and force the fleet to scatter. But it will also put us at great risk." Nathan nodded slowly, the weight of her plan settling over him. "So it's a one-shot deal," he said. "We get in, disable the ship, and hope we make it out alive." Yes, Alicia said. But if we succeed, we will buy the galaxy precious time to prepare for their next move. Nathan took a deep breath, his mind racing with the enormity of what they were about to attempt. It was reckless, dangerous, and nearly impossible. But it was their only chance. I'm in, he said firmly. Whatever it takes, we'll make it work. Alicia's expression softened, and for a moment, Nathan thought he saw a flicker of gratitude in her luminous eyes. Thank you, Nathan Carter, she said. Your courage is rare, and it gives me hope. The room seemed to hum with renewed energy as they began to finalize their plan. Nathan could feel the bond between them growing stronger, their connection deepening with each passing moment. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew they would face them together. As the holographic display flickered and dimmed, Nathan turned to Alicia, his resolve solidifying. Let's do this, he said, his voice steady. For the galaxy, and for each other. Alicia nodded, her luminous gaze unwavering. For the galaxy, she agreed. And for hope. The stage was set, and the countdown had begun. Together, they would face the enemy, and the unknown, with everything they had. The final stand. Nathan Carter tightened his grip on the controls of the small transport ship as it sped toward the enemy fleet. Beside him, Alicia sat motionless, her glowing form a stark contrast to the darkened cabin. The hum of their shared energy pulsed faintly in the air, a constant reminder of the bond they now shared. It steadied Nathan's nerves as he guided the vessel toward what felt like certain doom. Ahead, the enemy flagship loomed like a shadow against the starlit expanse, its massive frame bristling with weapons and defenses. Smaller escort ships buzzed around it like angry insects, their patrol routes carefully synchronized to leave no gaps. Nathan frowned, his mind racing as he calculated their approach. We're almost in range, he said, glancing at Alicia. Are you ready? Alicia turned to him, her luminous eyes calm and steady. I am ready, she said softly. But you must focus, Nathan. The disruption field requires absolute synchronization. If we falter, even for a moment. Nathan nodded, cutting her off. I understand, he said. We won't falter. The tension in the cabin was palpable as Alicia raised her hands, her fingers glowing with an ethereal light. The air around them seemed to thicken, vibrating with a low hum that resonated deep in Nathan's chest. He closed his eyes for a moment, allowing the bond to guide him. He could feel Alicia's presence enveloping him, her calm determination merging with his own resolve. Now, she said. Nathan activated the disruption field, and the transport ship shimmered as a wave of energy rippled outward, bending light and sound around them. The effect was instantaneous. Their small craft disappeared from the enemy sensors, slipping through the patrol routes like a ghost. Nathan held his breath as they approached the flagship, every nerve on edge. We're in, he said, exhaling sharply as they reached the massive vessel's docking bay. He guided the ship into an empty corner, out of sight of the automated security systems. What's next? Alicia stood, her glowing form casting faint shadows across the cabin. We move quickly, she said. The disruption field will not last long. Once we're inside, we head for the core. Nathan nodded, grabbing his weapon and following Alicia as she opened the hatch. The docking bay was eerily quiet, its cavernous space filled with rows of parked ships and cargo containers. The hum of the flagship's engines vibrated faintly beneath their feet, a reminder of the immense power housed within the vessel. Alicia led the way, her movements swift and fluid. Nathan followed close behind, his senses heightened by the bond. He could feel Alicia's awareness stretching out around them, scanning for threats with a precision that left him in awe. They are close, she whispered, her voice barely audible. 2 guards ahead. Nathan nodded, gripping his weapon tightly. As they rounded a corner, he saw them. 2 heavily armed soldiers standing near a control panel. Before he could react, Alicia raised her hand, and a pulse of energy rippled outward, knocking the guards unconscious without a sound. That's one way to do it, Nathan muttered, stepping over the fallen soldiers. Alicia glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "We must move quickly," she said. "The core is heavily guarded." They continued through the labyrinthine corridors, the tension building with each step. Nathan's heart pounded in his chest, but he pushed the fear aside, focusing on the task at hand. He could feel Alicia's determination bolstering his own, their bond a steady anchor in the chaos. When they finally reached the core chamber, Nathan froze. The room was massive, its walls lined with glowing conduits that pulsed with energy. In the center stood the core itself, a towering column of light and machinery, its surface crackling with raw power. But it wasn't unguarded. A dozen soldiers stood between them and their target, their weapons trained on the entrance. Alicia stepped forward, her glowing form drawing the soldiers' attention. For a moment, they hesitated, their gazes fixed on her otherworldly presence. Then, as one, they raised their weapons. Nathan didn't wait. He fired, the sharp crack of his weapon echoing through the chamber. Alicia raised her hands, and a wave of energy erupted from her, knocking the soldiers back like ragdolls. But more were coming. Alarms blared, and the room was flooded with red light as reinforcements poured in from every entrance. "We're out of time," Nathan shouted, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "What do we do?" Alicia turned to him, her eyes blazing. "I will hold them off," she said. "You must overload the core." Nathan's stomach dropped. "Alone? Are you crazy? You'll be overwhelmed." Alicia's expression softened, and for a moment, Nathan saw a flicker of sadness in her luminous eyes. "You are strong, Nathan," she said, "but this is my fight. Trust the bond. It will guide you." Nathan hesitated, his heart pounding. He wanted to argue, to tell her they could find another way. But deep down, he knew she was right. Gritting his teeth, he nodded and sprinted toward the core. The machinery was complex, but the bond seemed to guide him, Alicia's knowledge flowing through him like a stream. His hands moved with precision, bypassing fail-safes and overloading the system with a series of calculated inputs. The core began to hum loudly, its glow intensifying as the energy within it spiraled out of control. Behind him, the battle raged. Nathan glanced back to see Alicia standing in the center of the chamber, her form blazing with light as she held back the enemy forces. Waves of energy erupted from her, knocking soldiers to the ground and dismantling their weapons. But the strain was visible. Her movements were slower, her glow flickering. "It's done," Nathan shouted, stepping back as the core began to destabilize. The machinery groaned, and cracks of light spiderwebbed across its surface. Alicia turned to him, her gaze steady despite the chaos. "Then we must go," she said. "Now." Nathan ran to her, grabbing her arm as they sprinted toward the exit. The ship trembled violently, explosions rocking the corridors as the core's energy spiraled out of control. They barely made it to their transport ship before the flagship erupted in a blinding explosion, the shockwave sending them tumbling through space. As the light faded, Nathan sat back in his seat, his chest heaving. Alicia slumped beside him, her glow dim but steady. "We did it," he said, his voice hoarse. Alicia nodded weakly. "Yes," she said, "but this is only the beginning." Nathan frowned, his mind racing. "What do you mean?" Alicia's luminous eyes met his, filled with a quiet resolve. "They will come again," she said. "But now, the galaxy knows, and we will be ready." Nathan nodded, his resolve hardening. Whatever lay ahead, he knew they would face it together. For the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope, not just for himself, but for the galaxy they had fought to protect. A new dawn. The transport ship drifted in the quiet aftermath of the battle, its cabin dimly lit by the flickering glow of Alicia's presence. Outside, the remnants of the enemy flagship floated as debris in the vast expanse of space, a stark reminder of what they had accomplished and what it had cost. Nathan Carter sat in the pilot's seat, his gaze fixed on the stars beyond the viewport. His chest heaved with exhaustion, but his mind was alive with thoughts of what had transpired. They had struck a blow against the enemy, a decisive victory that had bought the galaxy precious time. But Alicia's words lingered in his mind. This is only the beginning. Beside him, Alicia sat silently, her once radiant glow dimmed but steady. Her luminous eyes, filled with wisdom and a quiet sadness, turned to meet his. "You fought well, Nathan Carter," she said softly. "You showed courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Few would have done the same." Nathan shook his head, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I didn't do it alone," he said. "You were right there with me, every step of the way." Alicia's expression softened. "The bond we share is strong," she said. "It has made us more than allies. Together, we are a force the galaxy cannot ignore." For a moment, silence fell between them, the weight of their victory mingling with the knowledge of what lay ahead. The coalition they had defeated was vast and resourceful, and their pursuit of Alicia's power would not end with the destruction of one ship. "So what happens now?" Nathan asked, his voice steady despite the uncertainty gnawing at him. "What's our next move?" Alicia turned her gaze back to the stars, her expression contemplative. "We prepare," she said. "The galaxy must know the truth of what is coming. The coalition will rebuild, and when they do, they will come with greater force. But they are not invincible. With time, allies, and determination, we can stand against them." Nathan leaned back in his seat, his mind racing. The fight ahead would be long and grueling, but he felt a renewed sense of purpose, a calling he hadn't known he was searching for. "Then let's prepare," he said. "Whatever it takes, I'm with you." Alicia looked at him, her eyes shimmering faintly. "You are an extraordinary human, Nathan Carter," she said. "Your willingness to stand beside me, to share this burden, is a testament to your strength. Together, we will face what comes." Nathan grinned, a spark of hope igniting in his chest. "We've got this," he said confidently. "One step at a time." The ship hummed softly as it resumed its course, carrying them toward the uncertain future. Though the path ahead was fraught with danger, neither Nathan nor Alicia felt alone. The bond they had forged, born of trust and necessity, had become something far greater, a partnership that could shape the fate of the galaxy. As the stars stretched out before them, Nathan felt a sense of resolve settle over him. The battle might have been won, but the war was far from over. Together, they would face the challenges to come, united by their shared purpose and the hope of a better tomorrow. In that moment, amidst the quiet of the stars and the weight of their mission, Nathan Carter and Alicia knew one thing for certain. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with possibility, danger, and the promise of a galaxy worth fighting for.